name is Jim Price. I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Lake Norman. I welcome you to our service today, December the 6th. Our speaker is Eric Bannan, and more about him in a minute. I have been a Unitarian since 2012, and I am a nominee to be vice president of our fellowship in the next year. Our members follow different paths to find purpose and meaning, but we are united in the belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all beings. We are a liberal and open faith community, and everyone is welcome, regardless of faith, race, sexual orientation, gender, economic status, or ability. Our opening words for our service today are provided by Kimberly Ann Tomzak Carlson, and it's called A Place of Belonging and Caring. It is not by chance that you arrived here today. You have been looking for something larger than yourself. Inside of you there is a yearning, a calling, a hope for more, a desire for a place of belonging and caring. Through your struggles, someone nurtured you into being, instilling a belief in a shared purpose, a common yet precious resource that belongs to all of us when we share. And so you began seeking a beloved community, a people that does not put fences around love, a community that holds its arms open to the possibilities of love, a heart home to nourish your soul and share your gifts. Welcome home. Welcome to worship. In the Unitarian faith, we light a chalice, which I will do now. Our words for lighting the chalice are, we light our flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In our search for truth, may we be just. In our search for justice, may we be loving, and in loving, may we find peace. Our speaker today is Eric Bannan. He's been with us before and delighted us with his entertainment and with his knowledge. A little bit about Eric. He's a pretty unique individual. He is a husband, father, songwriter, storyteller, U.S. Coast Guard rescue flight crew veteran, backcountry adventurer, racer, and cancer survivor with a master's degree in computer science. He has been called to share his art to inspire, motivate for positive change, and build community. He is based in Pittsboro, North Carolina, and Eric travels the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic states, bringing the power of storytelling to faith communities, festivals, and front porches. The title of this presentation today is called Reclaiming the Sacred in Our Day-to-Day Lives. And when I asked for a brief description of the presentation, this is what he told me. As Unitarian Universalists, we decide what is holy and what is sacred. We can make our own rituals, even our own holidays. So how do we reclaim the sacred in our daily lives in the absence of in-person worship service? I know all of us have sort of clamored, especially initially before we were meeting on Zoom, because we missed each other so much. Zoom has helped a lot, but still we miss the interaction, the contact, the strength that we draw from one another. And I'm really curious to hear what Eric has to say on the subject. He's entertained and enlightened us before, and I have no doubt he will again today. So please help me welcome Eric Bannan.
Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you came to be, journey that starts with Him. If you got a burden, come lay it on down. Raise up your voices as we gather around. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you came to be in this community, you are welcome here. You are welcome here. If you are joyful or you're concerned, well, come share your story. Our chalice flame burns. If your heart is broken or you've been disowned, come join our circle and turn off your phone. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you came to be in this community, you are welcome here. You are welcome here. If you are running, you got the right to seek sanctuary, guided by the light. If you hear that calling, come join the fight. Marching for justice, candles lit in the night. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you came to be in this community, you are welcome here. You are welcome here. It's that last line now. You are welcome here. Okay, last time. We finish. Here we go. You are welcome here. Is there a place where there is understanding? Compassion is commanding what we do, what we say. Is there a place where freedom bells are ringing? Everyone is singing, searching for some harmony. Know them against us. Nobody has to ride the back of the bus. Liberty, justice for all. Building up bridges and tearing down walls. Is there a place where no child is going hungry? It's not about the money. Love is the law of the land. Is there a place where we all do our part, yeah? Serving from the heart, they're reaching out, helping hands. what you seek. Use your imagination and see it. If this change is what we need, start right now and be it. Is there a place where everyone is listening? No one lost or missing on the street without a home. Is there a place where there's no guarded borders, no toilet paper hoarders, no soldiers carved in stone? Know them against us. Nobody has to ride the back of the bus. Liberty and justice for all. Building up bridges and tearing down walls. Is there a place where? Is there a place where? Is there a place where?
Good morning. My name is Eric Bannan, and my message today is on reclaiming the sacred in our day-to-day lives. I'm hoping this is some news you can use in these uncertain times. Everybody I know has some sort of ritual in their lives. Maybe it's that first cup of coffee in the morning. Maybe it's the walk around the neighborhood with the dog. Maybe it's reading the paper with the cat in your lap. Maybe it's a quiet prayer as we greet the day or sing the rosary. Maybe you're not a morning person, and maybe watching the sunset or some quiet meditation in the evening is your thing. Some of our more sacred rituals, like the ones we do on holidays, are passed down from our parents and grandparents and even beyond. Many of us grew up with rituals that were linked to ancient stories and traditions, faded with time. Now I think back to the rituals that I grew up with. My parents were Catholic, and my upbringing was full of practices I never really understood. One example was that my parents never ate meat on Fridays. The good thing about this ritual is on Friday, my mother made my grandmother's, her mother's, tuna fish tomato spaghetti sauce with angel hair pasta. This dish was she also made this on Christmas Eve. Now, this tradition of no meat Friday has long since faded into a distant memory. But my wife still makes that spaghetti sauce on special occasions, and it's still one of my favorite comfort foods. My son loves it too. Now, I looked up ritual in the online dictionary, and there were a number of definitions that had a lot of the same basic stuff in common. And a lot of them sounded like this. A ritual is a sequence of activities involving gestures, words, actions, or objects performed in a sequestered place and according to a set sequence. Rituals may be prescribed by the traditions of a community, including a religious community. Now, when I get ready to write a new sermon, I always check in for some guidance with my preaching mentor, Reverend Tom Below. Now, Reverend Tom introduced me to a wonderful book, Faithful Practices, Everyday Ways to Feed Your Spirit. Faithful Practices. It's available in the UUA bookstore if you're interested in this book. And so I went ahead and I ordered this book, and when it showed up, I read the introduction, and I realized that many of the rituals in our lives were in fact spiritual practices. Now, what do I mean What do I mean when I say spiritual practice? Now, in the introduction of the book, they quote Unitarian Henry David Thoreau from his classic book, Walden. And I'm going to quote here. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, to see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I do not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear, nor do I wish to practice resignation, unless it was quite necessary. I wanted to live deep and suck all the marrow out of life. I love this. I do not wish to live what was not life, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. To live in a way that is truly alive. That's a quest, if you will. Now, the book goes on to mention that a spiritual quest is in many ways like an artistic quest. Now, say you decided you wanted to play guitar. If you picked it up every now and again, you might luck into creating something interesting. But if you want to make progress, you need practice, often, daily if possible. It takes discipline. Now, Pablo Casals is often regarded as the greatest cellist in history. Early in my musical life, one of my teachers told me that he practiced scales every day. Even into his 90s, he even practiced on the day he died. When asked why in his 90s, having mastered the instrument, he still practiced something so rudimentary, every day he remarked, I'm starting to make progress. Starting to make progress. Now, the pandemic has changed our lives in so many ways. For months now, we have been grieving the loss of so many of our daily routines and rituals and practices that have given our life meaning and structure. Many of us are experiencing a great sense of loss because of all the rituals and sacred practices that have been disallowed, gathering as community. The spiritual practice of our Sunday in-person worship is one of the threads that holds many of our lives together. My entire Sunday morning is sacred. The awakening and rising while my wife and son are still asleep, savoring that quiet cup of tea on my porch while listening to the force that surrounds my home come to life. Now, back before the pandemic, later in the morning, all the actions of getting ready to go to church, getting cleaned up, picking out a shirt and a hat, the 20 or 5 or so minute drive in, even the walk from the parking lot. And then being embraced by sacred community as we enter the building. And the hunt for our name badges. And the hugs. Oh. And the music. Singing together. Raising our voices in unison and harmony. The sermon, the joys and sorrows, shalom, and the thing I miss more than anything, coffee hour. So what do? How do we reclaim the sacred? How do we invent, reclaim, and explore the sacred in our daily lives? I believe the fourth principle of Unitarian Universalism, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, gives us permission to do just this. We decide what is holy. We decide what is sacred. Now, sometimes, though, we need a little nudge. For me, this came during a heart-to-heart conversation with my dear friend Donna Washington. She was relating a conversation in which someone challenged her celebration of Kwanzaa, claiming it was a made-up holiday. And her response to this was something like, "Newsflash, all the holidays are made up. Do you think they grow on trees?" Now, I carried this little nugget of wisdom around with me for a while, and I grinned every time I thought of it. Now, after my son graduated 8th grade back in June of 2020, we had a bit of traveling to celebrate. And when I got home, I looked at my calendar for July and the first 2 weeks of August, and I saw nothing. No summer camps for my son. I usually spend July and August on the road playing music, attending camps, teaching, and being a student. I go to Susie. I go to the Swananoa Gathering. I go to the Omega Institute for Circle Songs with Bobby McFerrin. But I looked at my calendar and I had nothing. And it scared me. I mean, there was plenty of stuff online, but we need something more. So what was I going to do? What do we do? Well, on the morning of the 4th of July, I decided to declare July Holy Month. Well, why not? What's more sacred than this moment right here, right now? Then I started thinking, well, how do I celebrate this new Holy Month? I need a new daily ritual. I need a spiritual practice. And I decided that I would arise at 5 a.m. every day, have a quiet cup of tea, and I would lace up my shoes and walk up my driveway to our cul-de-sac and greet the dawn. Now, I live in rural Chatham County, North Carolina. My driveway is about a quarter of a mile long, so it's a nice little walk. Stretch my legs. Now, in my house, summer means sleeping in, especially for my teenage son. So I started getting up early again. I mean, I say again, I've been an early riser for a long time, but this was different. My intention was different. And I'd kind of gotten out of the habit of getting up early. So at first, I struggled with the 500 wake up. After a week or so, boom, my eyes would open automatically at 5 a.m. Just like that. And as I got into the second week of my new Holy Month, this ritual became the highlight of my day. That first cup of tea, green tea in the morning, became a part of my ritual as well. I would set out my clean mug, my infuser, my teaspoon on a colorful, precisely folded dish towel so it would be ready for my use. As the month went on, I would start looking forward to bedtime in anticipation of awakening the next day to greet the dawn. I would prepare my tea set. I would clean or declutter the kitchen so it would be welcoming to me in the pre-dawn hours. Yes, cleaning the kitchen can be a spiritual practice. You know, one of the things I miss most about my 9-to-5 IT job was the structure it gave my life. I knew that every weekday at 11:30, I was going to lunch. Lunch was important, and unless the place was literally on fire, I was out the door with a book under my arm, heading for one of my favorite local restaurants. Was this a ritual? Maybe. Was this a spiritual practice? I don't know. It gave my life structure. It gave me some time away from my little beige cubicle and my computer screen. And it made me wonder how many of the people I know intentionally make time for yourselves every day. There's that word, intention again. Now, I recall a sermon from Reverend Lisa Garcia Sampson, who some of you may know, entitled The Courage to Rest. She talks about how our first principle, affirming the inherent worth and dignity of all beings, is most often simplified to be viewed as the way in which we treat others. It's used as the basis for our social justice programs. And she goes on to say, and I'm quoting here, before being about anyone else, that first principle is about us. It is the place from which our faith unfolds. Not because we are more important than others, but because the way we live in this world, the way we love in this world, begins with the way we love ourselves. Let me just say that again. The way we live in this world, the way we love in this world, begins with how we love ourselves. You know, I try to take a Sabbath every week. And a Sabbath can take many forms. Usually, I used to turn my phone off on Saturday night and not turn it back on until Monday morning. Now since I have to use my phone to attend service, I try to stay off social media and I don't watch any news. That's kind of my Sabbath. And it makes a difference. My intention makes a difference. No news. As Unitarian Universalists, we decide what is holy. We decide what is sacred. We can make our rituals, even our own holidays. So how will you reclaim the sacred? How will you make time for yourself? You know, your life may already be filled with spiritual practices that you may recognize, and some you may not. I encourage you today and every day this week to take some time for yourself and see the sacred in your daily life. Amen. Blessed be, and may this be so. Thank you.
Hi, Eric Bannan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Maestro Glenn on the piano. We're going to do a traditional hymn, Wade in the Water, with lyrics I learned from folk singer, storyteller Reggie Harris. gonna trouble the water. Sing it now. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. See those children dressed in black. Wade in the water. They're the ones that's never coming back. God's never trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. One more time. Wade. Everybody. In the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
Thank you so much for the service, Eric, and we look forward to chatting with you on Zoom after the service. We have a few announcements I need to make. Our annual meeting will take place after the service at the 11 o'clock hour on December 13th. We will need a quorum because we will be proposing and voting on the annual budget and the candidates as proposed to the outgoing board positions. We want to thank all who served for the contributions to our congregation. Please make every effort to attend. The nominating committee has proposed these candidates for board positions: Vice President Jim Price, Trustee at Large Sandy McFeely, and of course the President will be last year's Vice President Harvey Wigner. These members have volunteered for the nominating committee: Agnes Fiore, whose term ends 12/21, Linda Heidenberg, whose term ends 12/22, and Kim Worthington, whose term ends 12/23. Thank you for your service and for the ongoing health of our fellowship. Voting will take place at the annual meeting December 13th. Autumn Winters continues to progress with the children's program. She's continuing to register programs for the weekly virtual program. Continue to tell friends, coworkers, and strangers about this program that teaches values, character, justice, and much more. As we get going, we will be launching a kid-centered service project and create lots of arts and handicrafts to inspire hearts and minds. If you're on Facebook, it's easy to spread the word. Please share the post with family and friends by clicking on the share button at the bottom right under the image, and the link is in our newsletter. And we do thank Autumn for her service to our fellowship, and we're just so glad to have her. Our treasurer, Tracy Grimm, has recently sent out pledge forms for 2021. It's real important that you get these pledges in and that we continue our pledges during this time of shutdown and operating on Zoom. You can email your pledge if you'd like, if you want to save a stamp. Also, Gail Arnold has put a notice in the newsletter that she's requesting or asking if you have any requests for speakers in the new year. We, of course, have our regulars, Reverend Job and Laurie Walker, but then we have those other spaces that need to be filled. So if there are speakers we've had in the past that you particularly enjoyed, would like to hear again, notify Gail Arnold, if you will, and she's in our address book. It's important that we keep our donations going, again, as we're shut down. I do have one sorrow to report. Darla Davis' long-term companion, Arlo, passed away. All dog lovers know how deep the bonds run, so please keep Darla on your mind as she grieves the loss of her good friend, Arlo. And now I have closing words. These are from Eileen Karpelis. As we part from one another, let these be our thoughts. If that which is most holy lies within the human person, and if the greatest power in the world shines flickering and uncertain from each individual heart, then it is easy to see the value of human associations dedicated to nurturing that light, the couple, the family, the religious community. For the power of good in any one of us must at times waver. But when a group together is dedicated to nurturing the power of good, it is rare for the light to grow dim in all individuals at the same moment. So we borrow courage and wisdom from one another to warm us and keep us until we're together again. And we will be together again, folks. I will now extinguish the chalice, but not the flame that lives in our hearts as we love one another. Shalom, namaste, blessed be, go in peace.